In this section, there's not a lot new that you would need to be able to do on the calculator. In fact, everything here is something from a previous section. The biggest thing is calculating the mean and standard deviation of a probability distribution, and that's really just a reminder of what we did for frequency distributions in the first module. Next up would be expected value, and I'll explain that when we get there. So first off, I have an example of a probability distribution here, and what I want to do is calculate the mean and standard deviation of it. So what I'm going to do, because this is grouped data, is put these into two separate lists, L1 for the outcomes of the random variable, and L2 for the probabilities. So I'll press the stat key, and the first item that shows up is edit, so that'll take me into the list editor. If you already have stuff in the list editor, make sure you highlight the name of the list, press clear and enter, and that will clear out everything in that list. Don't be tempted to press the delete key. It will remove the list from the editor, and then you would have to press the stat key and then go to setup editor in order to get back to get that back. So let me clear out this one, and I will start entering the data into my lists here. So I have -4, so be careful to make sure you use a negative instead of a minus. Then 2, 1, 10, and 18. So that's in list 1 now. And as I go over to L2, the probabilities here are 0.15, 0.32, 0.08, 0.24, and 0.21. And of course, double check those just to make sure that you've typed them in properly. Okay, once you've done that, you can quit out of the list editor, and then press the stat key again, go over to Calc, and we want one-var stats. Same thing that gave us mean and standard deviation of frequency distributions in Module 1 will give us mean and standard deviations of probability distributions in Module 2. We just have to make sure that we tell it that we have our list, which is basically the outcomes in L1, and the frequencies are going to be the list of probabilities in L2. So hit second and 2 to get that, and then press calculate. It will bring up the solutions here. So the mean is 6.3, and the standard deviation is 7.49. Notice that the sample standard deviation did not show up, and that's okay. That happens in certain situations when our frequencies add up to 1. The sample standard deviation can't be calculated by the way that formula is done. So, expected value. Now, expected value is actually no different. Expected value is just a way that we interpret the mean of a probability distribution. So, if we had an example problem where we needed to find an expected value, we would just create a frequency or a probability distribution for that example, listing all the outcomes that are possible together with their probabilities, and then compute the mean of that probability distribution, and that would be your expected value. And that's all.